Hey guys, tonight we travel back in time, not by decades or even centuries, but by tens of thousands of years. You're lying flat on your back, staring up at a jagged stone ceiling. It's pitch black. The cold feels alive, clawing at your cheeks. There's no mattress here, no duvet. You're curled on a bed of straw and matted animal hide, and something just skittered past your ear. A beetle? A spider? It doesn't matter. You're not in your bedroom anymore. Congratulations. You've just woken up in the Ice Age, roughly 40,000 years ago. You are alone, barefoot, and in what you hope is a cave. Your breath clouds in the freezing air, and the wind outside howls like a hungry animal. You reach out in the dark and feel rock, smooth, damp, and cold as death. There's no phone, no fire, no food, just stone and shadows. And worse, the distinct, musky smell of something nearby. Something not quite human. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The rustling gets louder. You hear breathing. Then a shape looms in the dimness. Broad-shouldered, thick-necked, with wild, matted hair and a forehead like a battering ram. It's not a bear. It's a person. Sort of. He's staring at you with eyes like wet pebbles. You flinch, and he grunts, low and curious. This is your first meeting with a Neanderthal, and he's a lot more comfortable here than you. He crouches by a pit of ash and begins stoking embers with one hand. You see the muscles in his forearm flex. They're huge, ropes of flesh twisted like braided cables. He doesn't speak, but he doesn't need to. The fire roars to life with terrifying efficiency. No flint, no matches, just confidence and competence. You, meanwhile, are still trying to figure out why your knees feel like they're wrapped in rawhide. You sit up. It takes effort. Your limbs feel different. Heavier, stronger, unfamiliar. You flex your fingers. They look like your hands, but bulkier. Thicker skin. Densely packed joints. You pat your chest. Your heart is pounding, but it doesn't feel like fear. It feels like power. You are not in your modern body anymore. Somehow, impossibly, you've become Neanderthal too. Outside the cave, the morning is beginning. You hear the crunch of snow underfoot, the guttural calls of someone returning from a hunt. Another Neanderthal trudges into view, dragging what looks like half a reindeer behind her. Her arms are the size of hams. Her brow is heavy and sloped. Her eyes flick toward you, calm, appraising, not unkind. She gestures for you to help carry the meat. You try. Really, you do. But your spine immediately reminds you that you're still you on the inside. The meat is dense, awkward, and heavy. Your knees buckle. The others look unimpressed. One of them picks up the entire slab, over 100 pounds, and slings it over one shoulder like a gym bag. You feel a pang of shame, but also awe. Your bones are thicker now, twice as dense as your modern ones. You feel it in the way your feet hit the ground, solid and slow like a great beast. Your legs throb with muscle, and your arms are packed with more brute force than anything you've ever felt. There's no gym here, no supplements, no protein smoothies, just nature and survival. and apparently both are brutal personal trainers. You step outside the cave and nearly gag. The world is enormous and savage. Cold wind slaps your face. The sky is pale, the ground white and unforgiving. The trees groan under the weight of frost. Somewhere in the distance, something howls. Something big. You stand very still. It's not a dog. The Neanderthals don't flinch. They keep moving, slow and steady. Like living tanks. Every movement they make is deliberate, economical, efficient. You stumble. They stride. Historians still argue, you recall vaguely, whether Neanderthals were truly a separate species or just a chunkier branch of Homo sapiens. At this point, you don't care. All you know is they're surviving out here, and you're still trying to remember how to make fire. They hand you a hunk of meat. It's raw, still steaming. You look at it, and then at them. They eat. You try. Your teeth sink in reluctantly. It's chewy, bloody, absolutely horrifying. You gag. One of them grunts and takes it back. It's going to be a long day. The cold gnaws at your skin, but your body doesn't shiver like it used to. You notice it after a few minutes of trudging behind the group. Your arms swing low and heavy at your sides, and your footsteps land with thick, deliberate thuds. You're not wearing shoes, just some kind of animal hide lashed around your feet with rawhide strips. But you're not complaining. Strangely, your soles feel tough, calloused, like you've spent years walking barefoot through stone and snow. You glance down at yourself. Your legs are enormous, not in a flex for the mirror way. These are tree trunk thighs, wrapped in slabs of sinew and tendon. Your forearms are bigger than your old biceps, and your shoulders have migrated halfway up your neck. Your body is compact and dense, less like a lean athlete and more like a living wrecking ball. You squat to pick up a chunk of frozen meat and realize something else. You didn't groan when you bent over. Your spine didn't crack. Your knees didn't complain. You just moved, smoothly and easily, like this body was built to carry weight, not avoid it. It turns out it was. Neanderthals had bones almost twice as dense as modern humans. Scientists say that if you fell off a ledge, you'd probably crack the ledge before your leg. Your muscle mass is sky high, and you didn't even have to try. No gym, no Pilates. Just the daily task of surviving in a world where everything, including the air, wants you dead. You're now a creature of pure utility. Your fingers are thick and stubby, but strong. Your grip could probably crumple an iPhone like a saltine. You lift a fallen tree branch to test your strength and nearly fling it across the valley. Alarming, but exhilarating. The others glance at you. Approving, maybe, or mildly amused. The air smells like pine sap and old blood. One of the Neanderthals points to a rocky ridge and starts climbing. You follow, your new body adapting fast. You're more sure-footed than you've ever been. Your calves flex with surprising ease, and even on the uneven terrain, you don't stumble. You're heavy, but coordinated. Halfway up, you pause. The view opens up. A vast glacial valley blanketed in frost, with forests stretching for miles. Snow drifts lazily through the air like ash. You're higher than you meant to be, and the wind is sharper here. But you don't feel the cold. Not really. Your chest is different now. Wider. It feels like a barrel, thick and rounded, housing something powerful inside. You inhale deeply. It's too easy. You can feel your lungs expand like bellows. They're huge, 20% larger than the ones you were born with. Your nose, which you finally notice is massive, acts like a turbocharger. The cold doesn't slow you down. Your body pulls in air twice as fast as it used to. You're not built for long-distance marathons, but short, brutal bursts of power. You're a champion, a sprinter, a beast, and somehow you're getting used to it. You reach the top of the ridge and collapse onto a flat rock, heart thudding but not racing. The Neanderthals settle around you. One of them pulls a sharp flake of stone from a pouch and begins chipping at a bone. You watch, transfixed. Their hands move fast, deliberate flicks and jabs that produce tiny, perfect cuts. You try it, but the flake slips and slices your finger. You hiss. The Neanderthal next to you looks over, then casually grabs a tuft of moss and presses it to the wound. No words, just moss, pressure, and a nod. It's efficient, this way of life. Brutal, but calm. There's no complaining, no small talk. No one here is arguing about oat milk versus almond. They work, they eat, they sleep, and they survive. And then one of them laughs. You didn't expect it. It's deep and snorting, a kind of throat hiccup that turns into a wheeze. The others join in. You have no idea what the joke was. But you laugh too, because it's the first time you've felt warm since you woke up in this strange body. Historians still argue, you remember, whether Neanderthals had complex language or just simple vocalizations. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Whatever they're doing, it works. They understand each other. There's communication in every glance, grunt, and shrug. You look down at your hands again. Wide palms, short fingers, nails like tiny horn plates. You realize how much you don't need a phone anymore. You could probably tear down a tree with your bare hands and make a fire with the splinters. Modern, you would have needed a YouTube tutorial and a week off work. Now you just breathe deeply and watch the snow fall. At the edge of the ridge, one of them stands silently. His silhouette looks sculpted from stone, stocky and immovable, like he's grown from the earth itself. His eyes scan the distance, and his nostrils flare. You sense something shifting. Tension. Then he gestures. A flat-palmed wave, low and silent. It's time to move. You rise, your body responding faster than your thoughts. Muscles tighten, joints flex. You're not sure where you're going, but it doesn't matter. Your instincts have already kicked in. You descend the ridge behind them, moving through the snow-crusted underbrush like you've done it 100 times before. Branches snap underfoot. Your breath plumes into the morning air. The silence is heavy but purposeful, broken only by the occasional grunt or the muffled crack of icy twigs. Then you see it. Down in the clearing, sprawled on its side, is a beast the size of a van. It's not dead. Not yet. It's breathing. Barely. A massive reindeer or something close to it, with thick fur matted in blood. There's a crude wooden spear sticking out of its flank. You freeze, but the Neanderthals move forward without hesitation. This is breakfast. Your stomach growls violently. Not politely like it does in a staff meeting. This is an almost painful gnawing, as if your own body is yelling, "Meat now!" You didn't notice it until just now, but you're starving. And not in the modern way, where you sigh dramatically because it's been 4 hours since your last snack. No, this hunger is in your bones. Turns out you're now a hyper-carnivore. You need between 4,500 and 6,700 calories a day, most of it from meat. Raw, cooked, dried, your body doesn't care. It needs fat, protein, and sinew to stay functional. You look at the dying animal and think, disturbingly, of stew. Not salad, not trail mix. Stew. One of the Neanderthals raises a hand. Everyone stops. The spear carrier steps forward and, with grim precision, finishes the job. One quick thrust, no celebration, no drama, just necessity. You step forward cautiously, trying not to gag at the steaming blood pooling in the snow. The others get to work instantly, one sawing into the neck, another skinning the flank, another prying at a bone with stone tools. You're handed a chunk. It's still warm. The smell is metallic and fatty. You hesitate, then take a bite. And it's chewy, horribly chewy. Your jaw works like a machine, clamping down again and again. Your tongue goes numb. Your modern sensibilities scream in protest. But the others chew like it's jerky. Their teeth are enormous, flat, worn, but ridiculously strong. One of them is holding a piece of hide in his mouth while he slices it with both hands, his teeth acting as a third hand. You try the same thing with a strip of gristle. It works. It's terrifying, but it works. You're learning. Historians still argue whether this use of teeth for tool handling was cultural or purely anatomical, you recall distantly, even as you drool onto your own wrist. It doesn't matter now. What matters is that it's faster than using your fingers, and your teeth are clearly up for it. You finally stop chewing. Your jaw is sore, but your stomach feels slightly better, like you've shoveled a few coals into a very hungry furnace. You look around. The others are still working, barely winded. They're stripping the carcass with practiced ease, packing meat into hide bundles, cracking bones for marrow, and tossing nothing aside. You try to help, grabbing a rib to drag it over. It's like lifting a frozen bicycle made of muscle. You strain, veins bulging, but manage to shuffle it a few feet before your knees creak and you drop it. That's when it hits you. Neanderthal strength isn't just about lifting rocks and chasing mammoths. It's about doing this every day, carrying hundreds of pounds of meat, walking miles barefoot, fighting off predators, sleeping in caves, healing from broken bones. This isn't a weekend camping trip. This is life. And speaking of broken bones, you glance at one of the Neanderthals, whose right arm hangs a little too stiffly. He's got deep scars running across his scalp. One eye is milky white. He's clearly been injured. Badly. Yet here he is, hauling meat like it's nothing. No whining. No retirement. Paleontologists have found Neanderthal skeletons riddled with trauma. Skulls cracked clean through, ribs shattered, limbs amputated. And they lived. They healed. It's as if their bodies just refused to give up. Wolverine's healing factor. Cute. These people were doing that with no hospitals and no antibiotics. You poke your own bicep and frown. It flexes like a warm sack of clay. Useful, but probably not saber-tooth resistant. As the butchering ends, the group gathers around a small fire. Someone tosses a slab of meat into the coals, just enough to sear the outside. You're handed a cooked piece. It smells like ash and wild fat. You take a cautious bite, and for the first time, it's good. Smoky, rich, primitive. You chew in silence beside your new companions, the wind rattling through the trees like distant voices. Somewhere nearby, something howls. No one looks alarmed. You glance at the fire, then at the meat, then back at the forest beyond. And suddenly, it clicks. You weren't meant to live like this. But your body, This Neanderthal body was. Every inch of it, from the wide chest and high-calorie hunger to the absurd jaw strength and endless endurance. You're a biological tank. But deep inside, some small modern part of you still misses oatmeal. Maybe a spoon, possibly a chair. The Neanderthal beside you sneezes and wipes his nose with a rabbit pelt. You're not there yet. The snow crunches under your feet as the group moves again, away from the bloody clearing, deeper into the hills. You're full, finally. But the food doesn't bring comfort. It brings heat. Your whole body feels like a roaring furnace now, like you've eaten fire instead of meat. It makes sense. Your body is burning through calories at an obscene rate just to keep functioning. You're walking through sub-zero air with no gloves, no socks, and you don't even feel cold anymore. But then again, you're not really you anymore. Your chest rises and falls with deep, effortless breaths. You realize that with every inhale, your lungs pull in cold air like industrial pumps. Your nose, which, if we're being honest, looks kind of cartoonish now, isn't just a decorative face feature. It's your onboard climate control. Neanderthals had barrel-shaped chests. Your ribcage is wide and flared like a drum, making room for those enormous lungs, which are now running at full tilt. And your oversized nose? It's not a fashion statement. It helps warm and humidify cold air faster, pulling in oxygen at nearly double the rate of a modern human. You're a high-performance breathing machine in a world that rarely offers a break. You're not fast, not in the long-distance sense, but you're built for short, explosive bursts of activity. A sprint to dodge a predator, a lunge to stab a mammoth, a shove that could knock down a full-grown man and 2 goats at once. Right now, you're climbing a slope behind the group, and you barely feel winded. The incline is steep, the rocks icy, and yet you move with a kind of grounded grace. You're basically a snowplow in hide boots. One of the Neanderthals stops and crouches, eyes fixed on the horizon. You follow his gaze. Across the valley is a small, rocky outcrop, dark against the bright snow. Another cave. Shelter. The group picks up the pace. You follow, legs pumping, breath steady. You half expect to trip, to fall on your face, but this body responds like it's got 4-wheel drive. No wobbling ankles, no nagging knee pain. You glide, and now you're sweating. A cold, unpleasant truth emerges. You are very warm. Too warm. You peel back your shoulder wrap, and steam rises from your chest. Your back is soaked. It's like wearing a wool coat in a sauna, except the coat is your actual skin. The Neanderthals don't seem to care. They sweat too, but they're used to it. Their thick bodies overheat easily, but they have tricks. One of them grabs snow and rubs it onto his forearms. Another opens his hide tunic to let the cold air hit bare skin. It's all casual, efficient, routine. You try it. It works. The chill bites at your wet skin and evaporates the heat. Modern humans evolved in warmer, more temperate climates. Neanderthals. Ice Age Europe. Their bodies are cold-adapted biological machines, perfectly tuned for wind, snow, and constant motion. You, on the other hand, once complained when the office air conditioning hit 22 degrees Celsius. You reach the outcrop and duck into the new cave. It's deeper than the last one. Low ceiling, smooth stone walls, the floor covered in old bones and hardened mud. The air smells like smoke, wet hide, and something vaguely musky. But it's dry, and still, and warmer than outside. A fire pit sits in the center, blackened from years of use. One of the Neanderthals pulls out a flint blade and begins striking it with a chunk of iron pyrite. Sparks dance across the kindling. Within minutes, fire crackles. You sit back, breath catching in the golden light, and realize something else. You don't feel fragile anymore. This body, with its thick bones and ridiculous lungs, is resilient. Not in the modern "I did yoga today" way. In the take a spear to the leg and keep walking way. One of the older Neanderthals sits down across from you. His hair is grizzled, his face deeply lined. He's missing a few teeth, and his nose looks like it's been broken at least twice. He's got a huge scar running from his ear to his collarbone. And yet, there's nothing weak about him. His eyes are sharp, his hands steady. He begins carving something into a bone. Slow, deliberate strokes. Not just butchering, not sharpening. Something artistic, decorative. You realize you've forgotten what you thought you knew about these people. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals developed symbolic culture independently or picked it up from contact with Homo sapiens, echoes some long-forgotten documentary voice in your head. But sitting here, watching this scarred elder etch spirals into bone by firelight, it feels like that debate was always missing the point. They made things. Not just tools, but symbols, decorations, meaning. And they made them while surviving in a world that would happily kill them before breakfast. You look around the cave. Faint handprints stain the wall, red ochre, brown smudges, faded by time, but still there. Someone, maybe a child, pressed their palm against the rock and left it behind. A quiet shout across time. I was here. You touch the wall beside it. Your own palm is huge now, wide, calloused, built for gripping tree limbs or swinging clubs. But you press it down anyway, just beside the old print. It fits. Almost. Outside, the wind picks up. Snow begins to fall again, soft and quiet, blanketing the world in silence. You lean back, close your eyes, and let your lungs do what they do best. Fill your chest with cold, clean air. You are a beast. You are a tank. And for the first time since waking up in this strange, frozen past, you are warm. You wake to the sound of chewing. Not polite chewing. Not, I'm eating a granola bar and trying to be quiet chewing. This is aggressive, primal mastication. The kind that says something big is being consumed, and fast. You crack open an eye. The fire has died down to a soft, amber glow. Around it, several Neanderthals are already crouched, eating chunks of meat with that same relentless jaw strength. One of them has blood smeared on his cheek. Another is gnawing on a bone as thick as your arm. Your stomach growls again. The furnace is back on, demanding fuel. You sit up, and someone casually tosses you a slab of something grayish and heavy. You catch it? Barely. It's cold, sinewy, and absolutely raw. Here we go again. You bite in and chew, and chew, and chew. This time your jaw complains less. It's adapting. Still, the texture is like rubber bands soaked in iron. Your modern gag reflex whimpers, but you override it. There's no ketchup here, no side of mashed potatoes, just meat, fat, and bone. And a lot of it. See, this body, your Neanderthal self, is always burning through reserves. Remember, you're pulling in 4,500 to 6,700 calories a day, minimum. Most of it is coming from meat. You're now officially hypercarnivorous. Plants are fine if you stumble across them, but let's be real. You're not stopping to forage for berries when there's an aurochs to stab. As you chew, your body warms again, like someone's stoked the coals inside your chest. The meat is rough, stringy but rich. Your tongue is beginning to crave the fat, not recoil from it. And your stomach seems satisfied. For now. One of the Neanderthals rips a chunk of marrow out of a split femur and slurps it like soup. Another hands you a cracked rib, motioning toward the fatty tissue still clinging to it. You oblige. It's greasy and primal, and weirdly comforting. There's no ceremony, no table talk, just nourishment. Later, the group moves to gather more. Always more. Food doesn't last long in this world. Without freezers or storage beyond animal hides and cold caves, you eat what you kill. And then you eat some more. A Neanderthal can devour close to a quarter of their own body weight in a sitting. That means you might be expected to pack away 10 pounds of meat in one go. You don't. You manage half a pound and feel like you deserve a trophy. Out in the snow again, you follow two of the others toward a familiar, ominous shape. Another carcass. Something smaller this time. Maybe a horse. Or a very unlucky elk. What's odd, though, is that it smells old. Like it's been here a while. They kneel beside it and slice off strips of meat with their flint blades. You realize what's happening. They're eating it, rot and all. You grimace. One of them hands you a piece, its edges greenish and slightly slimy. You hesitate. But then, you remember, Neanderthals had guts of steel. Their digestive systems were primed to handle bacteria and parasites that would send modern humans straight to the ER. Rotten meat was fair game, especially when food was scarce. Historians still argue whether their microbiomes evolved to digest decay, or if they simply had stronger immune responses. You think, as you stare at the floppy strip in your hand. You take a bite. It's horrifying, but your stomach doesn't rebel. Not immediately, anyway. You try not to think too hard about it as you follow the group back to the cave, greasy strips of proto-jerky hanging from your belt, like some sort of prehistoric lunchbox. Back inside, someone started drying meat over a lattice of smoky branches. The scent fills the cave, strong, but not unpleasant. You sit near the fire and watch as one of the Neanderthal women scrapes a hide with what looks like a deer's shoulder blade. The motion is rhythmic, practiced. Her face is smeared with ash, her hands blistered, but she hums, low and nasal, almost musical. You try to mimic the motion with a scrap of hide, but your tool slips. You manage to slice your thumb open. Again. One of the others glances at your hand, shrugs, and tosses you a handful of something green and waxy. You smear it on the cut. It burns like betrayal, then numbs. Healing is fast here. Too fast. Even in this short time, your body feels like it's mending quicker, bruises fading faster than they should. Your muscles repair almost overnight. There's something about this biology that prioritizes endurance above all else. You could probably walk into a wall and apologize to the wall. One of the older Neanderthals limps over and plops down beside you. His leg is clearly mangled, likely broken at some point, then healed incorrectly. But he's still here, still moving, still useful. You watch him use his teeth to strip bark from a stick, then wedge that bark into a cracked boot sole. Teeth again, as tools. The grip strength is unreal. The jaws are broad and blunt, not for show, but for utility. You try biting a stick just for fun. It cracks clean in half. You're mildly horrified, and mildly impressed. As the firelight dances on the cave walls, the smell of drying meat surrounds you. You're full, a little nauseous, and, if you're honest, slightly proud. You've survived another meal. Barely. And in this world, that's a good day. You don't know what time it is. There's no sun in the cave, no clock on the wall, just the slow exhale of fire and the rhythmic breathing of the group around you. But when someone stands, stretches, and picks up a spear, the meaning is clear. It's time to work. No coffee, no small talk, no checking emails or hitting snooze, just the silent agreement that something needs to be killed or carried or chased across a frozen field until it gives up. You rise with the others, your legs stiff from sleep, but powerful beneath you. It's oddly satisfying, this body. Your movements feel deliberate, weighty, like every muscle fiber knows exactly what it's doing. There's no wasted energy, no awkward fumbling. You feel like you were carved out of a glacier and given marching orders. Outside, the wind slices across the hills. The cold has teeth, but again, you hardly feel it. Just another brisk morning in the Ice Age. You trudge behind the others through frost-hardened earth and bare trees, down a winding slope that ends at the edge of a frozen river. A herd of something, reindeer maybe, is clustered at the far bank. Big, alert, steaming breath puffing into the air. The Neanderthals crouch low behind a rocky rise. No words, just hand signals, grunts, and glances. You try to crouch, too. You immediately topple forward into a shrub. The nearest Neanderthal gives you a long, blank look. You nod, apologetically. Then you see it. One of the others, taller, broad-chested, with a mammoth bone necklace, stands and begins stalking toward the herd. Not running, not charging, just walking. Like this is completely normal behavior. You hold your breath, expecting chaos. But the reindeer don't bolt. Not yet. He's too low, too slow, too practiced. He moves like part of the landscape. His bare feet are silent against the snow. Then, at just the right moment, he lunges. The herd scatters. A spear sails through the air and slams into a flank. Not a killing blow, but enough. The animal limps, stumbles, the others charge. You charge too, awkwardly at first, then with momentum. Your feet hammer the ice. Your lungs blaze like a forge. You are moving fast, terrifyingly fast. You don't catch up, but the others do. The scene is brutal, quick and chaotic. Spears jab. One Neanderthal grabs a leg. Another delivers the finishing blow with a stone axe. Blood hits the snow in a spray of steam and shadow. You stop short, chest heaving, heart pounding. The world spins. Not because you're shocked by the violence, you're past that now, but because you've never worked this hard in your life. This wasn't a light jog. This was full-body, meat-fueled, high-intensity sprinting across uneven terrain in freezing temperatures while carrying sharp objects. And they do this every day. Neanderthals didn't need fitness trackers. They didn't need leg day or core engagement. Their entire lives were one long CrossFit nightmare, but without the bragging. You stand there panting as the others begin to field dress the animal. One of them gestures for you to help drag it. You nod. This time, you manage to grab a leg and haul it across the snow. It's not graceful, but it works. You glance at your own arms, ropes of muscle, sinew twitching under thick skin. Your hands look like they belong to someone who tears tree trunks in half for sport. You still feel like a visitor in this body. but less so than yesterday. One of the Neanderthals throws you a slab of liver, raw and slick. You look at it, then at them, then back at the liver. You chew. It's awful. They nod in approval. You're bonding. The walk back is long. Miles, probably, over frozen hills and past boulders scoured by wind. You're carrying close to 100 pounds of meat and bone, and you don't stop once. Your spine doesn't buckle. Your arms don't quit. You trudge forward, every step a quiet miracle. You look at your companions, barefoot, frost-caked, expressionless, and realize they do this injured, with broken bones, with missing fingers. One of them is limping, and he's still hauling a full ribcage over his back. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals had designated roles for hunting versus gathering, you recall faintly. If they did, it's not obvious here. Everyone pulls weight. Even the kids. Yes, kids. You spot one on the way back. Barely up to your waist, bundled in furs, dragging a squirrel behind him like a victory prize. His nose is running, his face smeared with dirt, and he looks like he could beat you at arm wrestling. He glances up at you with a squint, then continues toward the cave. No words, just a look that says, "You're slow." You arrive back at the cave as the light begins to fade. The fire is reignited, and the group settles down. Meat is carved, bones are cracked, fat is rendered. Tools are cleaned and resharpened by firelight. No one complains, not even a sigh. You, meanwhile, collapse into a squat and nearly fall over. Your legs feel like stones, your shoulders are screaming, your hands are blistered. And still, no one says a word. Because this was just a regular Wednesday. You lean back against the cave wall, chest rising and falling. Smoke curls toward the ceiling. Somewhere in the dark, someone snores. You're exhausted, aching, hungry again. But also kind of proud. You worked like a Neanderthal today, which means you didn't just survive. You belonged. Your arms are still sore. Not, "I went too hard at the gym" sore. More like, "I've been hauling dead animals and dodging frostbite for 2 days" sore. But you're also feeling durable, sturdy, like someone could hurl a log at your chest, and you'd just grunt, shake it off, and throw the log back. That's good, because you're about to get injured. The group is already up, moving before the fire has even died out. You squint into the hazy morning light filtering into the cave. One of the Neanderthals gestures with a spear, more hunting, or maybe tracking. You're not sure anymore. It all blends together. Walk, lift, stab, chew, survive. You follow. By now you're getting the rhythm. Feet wide for balance, shoulders hunched against wind. Breathe deeply, but don't pant. Panting shows weakness. Not that anyone here would care. They're not judging. They're just existing more efficiently than you. You cross a stream. The rocks are slick, the water dark and glassy. One of the Neanderthals hops across in 3 quick steps. Another wades straight through, not flinching as icy water pours into his leggings. You try the hopping. Bad idea. Your foot slips. You go down. Hard. Your shin slams into a jagged rock, and you let out a very un-Neanderthal noise. Something between a yelp and a wheeze. Pain explodes in your leg. Not a little pain. Big, dumb, bone-deep pain. The others turn, look, and keep walking. You clutch your shin, teeth clenched. After a moment, one of them lumbers back, grunts something undecipherable, and presses a warm, greasy hand to your leg. Then he slaps you. Just once. Not hard, but firmly. Apparently that's Neanderthal first aid. And you know what? It kind of works. You hobble for the next hour, but you keep up. There's no alternative. In this world, if you can walk, you walk. If your leg's not detached and actively on fire, it's not considered serious. And this is where you begin to understand something modern humans have completely forgotten. Neanderthals didn't just survive pain. They were forged in it. Paleontologists have uncovered skeletons with shocking injuries. Entire limbs shattered, skulls crushed, spines twisted. And these weren't people who crawled off to die. These were people who healed, sometimes with limited mobility, and kept going. That one-eyed elder in your group probably took a club to the face 20 winters ago. Modern medicine would call it a miracle. Neanderthal biology just called it Tuesday. And here's the weirdest part. You feel your body adjusting. Your shin is still sore, but you're walking more easily. Your muscles have locked into place, forming a kind of natural splint. You're adapting. Fast. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals had community-based healing practices or just insane biological resilience. You think? Wincing as you hop over another rock. It's probably both, because when you stop for rest, something surprising happens. One of the women hands you a wad of chewed bark, spit softened, warm, and smelling like wet wood. She points to your leg. You take it, hesitantly. It's bitter, astringent, possibly a prehistoric painkiller. Willow bark, maybe? Nature's aspirin. She doesn't wait for thanks, just turns and keeps walking. That's the vibe here. If you're hurt, we help you. Then we keep moving. You chew the bark, and your thoughts drift. What does a modern injury look like? An ice pack? 3 Advils? A week off? A pity party and an Instagram post about resilience? Not here. Pain isn't a narrative. It's a background hum. You're expected to heal, sure, but also to keep functioning. You walk through pain, sleep on it, eat around it. Even the children seem tough. One is hopping on one foot with a bandaged toe. Another has a fresh scrape across her cheek, probably from falling on flint. No one fusses. There's no baby talk. Just a quick grunt, a little spit on the wound, and back to work. By mid-morning, you're fully upright again. The throbbing has faded to a dull pulse. You can walk, even jog a bit. And as the group begins trailing fresh animal prints in the snow, you almost forget you were injured at all. Then it happens. A crack. Something moves in the trees ahead. A flash of fur and antlers. The group surges forward like wolves, spears at the ready. You follow. The adrenaline drowns the pain. It's a quick kill this time. A perfect throw from the older male drops the animal instantly. No chase. Just skill. You all gather around. One of them gestures for you to help with the gutting. You pause. Last time you watched. This time you step forward. Your hands are still clumsy with the flint blade, but steadier. You help peel back hide. You help crack a rib. The others don't laugh, don't guide. They just grunt approvingly when you don't mess it up. It's the closest you've come to earning respect here. Later, back at the cave, you sit beside the fire again, prodding at your leg. The bruise has bloomed a deep purple. There's a gash crusted in snow and ash. But you're upright, functional, part of the group. And you realize something as the light fades. You got hurt, and nobody panicked, least of all you. Pain isn't a crisis anymore. It's just part of the process. And weirdly, you kind of like that. You've lost track of how many days you've been here. The rhythm of life is primal now. Wake, move, eat, survive, sleep. The calendar means nothing. There are no Monday blues or weekend plans. Time is measured in meals, hunts, and moments around the fire, and lately, those moments have included children. You didn't expect them. Your mental image of Neanderthals probably didn't include toddlers with runny noses smearing charcoal on cave walls. But here they are, short-legged, round-bellied, wrapped in furs, and absolutely feral in the best possible way. One is trying to chase a lizard using a stick and surprising determination. Another is balancing on a log outside the cave, arms flapping, cackling like she invented gravity. A third is chewing something that looks like a rock. You're not sure it isn't a rock. And no one stops them. No helicopter parenting here. No one's yelling, "Be careful," or strapping helmets onto tiny heads. These kids play near open flames, flint tools, and piles of raw meat like it's a Montessori school run by wolves. And yet, somehow they're thriving. You sit beside the fire, nursing a still healing leg, watching a Neanderthal toddler waddle dangerously close to the ember pit. You flinch. His mother doesn't. She glances up, registers the moment, and then looks away. The kid swats at the smoke, giggles, and waddles off unharmed. Historians still argue whether Neanderthal parenting involved cooperative childcare or individual family units. You remember vaguely, though you doubt the toddlers cared either way. What's clear is that the entire group seems to look out for them, feeding, guiding, occasionally tossing them onto a hide when they wander too close to a wolf carcass. You even saw one woman calmly remove a small bone shard from a baby's mouth, like it was a pacifier. No fuss, no lecture, just business as usual. It's startling, but also kind of beautiful. These kids are not sheltered. They are initiated. Early. You try interacting with one, a tiny boy with a beetle in his fist and a suspicious expression. You hold out your hand. He stares at you, lifts the beetle, and deposits it gently in your palm. Then he walks away. You look down at the bug. It's alive and large. You try not to scream. Later, another child drags over a chunk of antler and sits beside you. He's maybe 4 years old, but already shaping it into something with a stone flake. His hands are steady, his eyes focused. You ask what he's making, but he just shrugs and keeps carving. By age 5, these kids can start fires, clean fish, and identify edible roots. At 5, you were gluing macaroni to cardboard and calling it art. You hear a burst of laughter behind you, 2 older children playing some kind of wrestling game, complete with headlocks and gleeful shrieking. One slams the other into the dirt. No one intervenes. They dust off and go again. And you notice something else. These children aren't constantly crying. They don't whine. They fall, bleed, get up. Their world is hard, but they are harder. That resilience, the one you're still trying to fake. They're born into it. One of the kids throws a stone and hits a tree with pinpoint accuracy. Another mimics the adults, practicing with a tiny spear made from a sharpened stick and squirrel fur. You realize this is play, but it's also training. There are no toys, no screens, just the environment and each other. Even rest time is wild. A baby sleeps curled up next to a dog-like creature, its head resting on the animal's ribs. No swaddle, no crib. Just warmth and fur. At one point, a toddler toddles up to the group with a proud expression and what is unmistakably a piece of mammoth dung in her hand. Someone laughs. Someone else wipes it off and gives her dried berries as a reward. There's structure here, yes, but it's not rigid. It's intuitive. The adults step in when needed, but rarely interfere. The children are allowed to learn through danger, not be protected from it. And honestly, you're jealous. Back in the 21st century, a toddler with a rock near a fireplace would trigger a full-scale family intervention. Here, he's expected to learn which end is hot. You think back to the first night you arrived, cold, clumsy, and terrified. You wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes alone. And yet these kids, half your size, half your age, are thriving in an environment where you're still just trying not to fall into the fire pit. One of them walks up to you now, mud-caked, berry-stained, eyes wide, and plops into your lap. No warning, no invitation, just thud. Lap occupied. She hands you a piece of what might be dried meat, or possibly bark. You chew. It's bark. She watches your reaction with deep amusement. You both laugh. And for a moment, surrounded by soot-faced wildlings and prehistoric chaos, you feel something unexpected. Peace. There is no school bell, no bedtime, no iPads, just dirt, fire, and small, terrifying children using sticks as weapons. And weirdly, you kind of love it. The cave is quieter tonight. The kids are finally asleep, bundled like wriggling sausages in furs, limbs sprawled in impossible directions, one of them drooling into a pile of charcoal. The adults sit near the fire, picking bits of meat from their teeth, sharpening tools, or just staring into the flames. No one's talking, but the silence isn't empty. It feels like the sound of living. You're sitting against the wall, legs stretched out, watching the flicker of firelight across the ceiling. It catches something. Faint markings, carved deep into the rock. Curved lines, animal shapes, dots in rhythmic rows. You blink. Wait. You're not imagining it. The walls are covered in art. Not sloppy doodles, not mindless scrawls, but intentional, stylized drawings. Bison, deer, handprints, strange looping shapes. You get up, step closer, and run your fingers across the stone. The carvings are old, worn smooth by centuries of smoke and breath. But they're still here, still watching. Someone behind you clears their throat. You turn. It's the elder again, the scarred man who sharpened his bone tools in silence and fixed your leg with a slap. He's holding a small bowl. Inside, ash, crushed ochre, maybe some animal fat. He dips 2 fingers in and smears a line across your cheek. You don't flinch. He nods, then gestures to the wall. An invitation. You dip your fingers into the bowl, thick with pigment, and press your hand to the stone. There. A modern handprint, awkward and too clean, beside dozens more. Your breath catches. You didn't expect to feel moved by cave graffiti. But here you are. And it gets weirder. Someone begins humming. It's low, guttural, rhythmic. Like throat singing, but softer. Another voice joins in, higher, almost melodic. A third adds something like a beat, thumping a stick gently against the stone floor. You sit down, listening, heart slowing. You realize they're making music. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals developed complex language or just rudimentary vocalizations. You recall that echo of a podcast or textbook. But this is more than grunts. It's harmony. Not quite words, maybe, but definitely communication, expression, feeling, even joy. You glance around the fire. A woman taps a carved flute against her thigh. A man shapes a lump of clay with rough fingers, sculpting a tiny animal. Someone braids sinew into rope. The children, half asleep, mumble the rhythm in their dreams. So much for brutish cavemen. You sit in the flickering glow, awash in contradiction. These people don't speak like you, or think like you, but somehow they've captured everything that matters. Art, rhythm, story. They've lived through unthinkable cold and hunger, through tooth and claw and blizzard, and still they've found the time to decorate. You look down at your body, your thick hands, scarred legs, feet like tree roots. Everything about you right now is designed for survival. But your mind? It's beginning to change, too. You start noticing details. The sound of the wind curling through the cave's mouth. The scent of ash and hide and boiled marrow. The way the fire pops when pine sap hits the embers. Even light feels heavier here. Fuller. You're not just surviving anymore. You're experiencing. Another Neanderthal walks over, sets down a flat stone, and begins scratching it with a piece of flint. It's not functional, just a pattern. Crosshatches, spirals. You ask him what it means. He looks at you, blinks, then keeps carving. Maybe it means everything. Maybe it means nothing. That's the point. You think about your old life, scrolling through screens, chasing inboxes, stressing over things that would seem laughable here. Password resets, traffic, slightly overcooked rice. And now? Now you're sitting in a soot-covered cave, a smear of ochre on your face, chewing the end of a burnt stick and wondering how many stars are overhead. Probably a lot. Someone tosses another log onto the fire. Sparks swirl upward, catching on the cave wall like shooting stars. You follow them up, eyes landing again on the drawings. Horses running, people dancing, spirals spiraling. Symbols, stories. You wonder if this is how it started. Not with words, but with shapes and sounds. With shared meals and firelight. With a hand pressed to stone. And suddenly you feel small, but not in a bad way, in a right-sized way. You are one creature in a long, long line of creatures who stared into the dark and decided to leave a mark, who faced the void and said, "I was here." You press your hand to the wall again. Then someone passes you a bone flute. It's small, polished, holes drilled clean through. You raise it to your lips and try to play. The sound is terrible, like a dying goose. Everyone laughs, open-mouthed, wheezing, head-thrown-back laughter. Even the elder. You grin, embarrassed, and take another stab at it. Still awful. But something about the moment sticks, like smoke in your clothes, like music in your bones. Maybe they didn't need language the way we think about it. Maybe this was enough. Rhythm, color, touch. You curl up near the wall later, the drawings glowing faintly in the dying firelight. The hum of the group lingers like a lullaby. And as your eyes drift closed, you wonder, did they know how fragile they were? Or did they feel, just for a while, eternal? You wake up to a rock hitting your chest. Not a big one, palm-sized maybe, but still. Ow! You jolt upright, groggy and confused, only to find a Neanderthal woman grinning at you like she's just told the funniest joke in the world. Around the cave, several others are watching her. One gives a low grunt that sounds suspiciously like a laugh. Then another rock hits your shoulder. A smaller one this time, followed by a louder grunt laugh. You're being flirted with. Welcome to Neanderthal courtship. There are no candle-lit dinners here, no pickup lines, no text messages sent at 11:47 p.m. Instead, you get affection in the form of projectile pebbles and prolonged eye contact that feels both charming and slightly threatening. You blink, trying to process. The woman who threw the rock is now chewing on something stringy while side-eyeing you with what can only be described as prehistoric flirtation. You shift uncomfortably. She chuckles, low and guttural, then tosses you a strip of smoked meat. You catch it. Congratulations. You're dating. Or something like it. Historians still argue whether Neanderthal mating rituals were pair-bonded or opportunistic. You recall faintly, even as your new admirer moves closer and sits down beside you with all the subtlety of a sack of bricks. She's still chewing. You chew too. Because apparently chewing together is foreplay now. She nudges your leg with her knee. You respond with the universal Neanderthal signal for romantic uncertainty, an awkward nod, and a piece of bark you found underfoot. She accepts it like a priceless gift. Romance achieved. Later in the day, you're taken on a small gathering trip. Not hunting, just a wander through a nearby wooded area where the group digs for roots and checks old snares. You're walking beside the same woman. She hands you a flint blade to carry, a gesture of trust. You accidentally drop it in a puddle. She stares. You retrieve it quickly. Crisis averted. As you both crouch to dig up something vaguely edible from under a mossy log, she offers you a piece of it. You share. It tastes like soil and onions had an argument, and no one won. Still, you eat it together. Across the clearing, another pair of Neanderthals are also courting, which in this case involves mutual shoulder bumping, stick poking, and some very loud snorting. At one point, he tries to hand her a frog. She slaps it out of his hand. He looks heartbroken. She picks up the frog and throws it at his head. They're probably married now. There's no clear system, no ring ceremonies or love songs, just gestures, glances, shared meat, shared work, and maybe a rock to the sternum. Still, it's not without charm. These people, so often painted as crude or emotionless, clearly feel. They care. They tease. They gift. It's not just survival. It's connection. And they take it seriously. You witness two young males get into a full-blown scuffle later over a tuft of bear fur. One is clearly trying to impress a woman by draping it over his shoulders like a prehistoric fashion statement. The other doesn't agree with this strategy. They grunt. They square up. They grapple in the snow while the woman calmly watches and chews a root. Eventually, one wins. The fur gets tossed toward the woman. She does not react. Brutal. Even in the Ice Age, romance is confusing. You start to notice other signs: grooming behaviors, shared food portions, quiet companionship. One couple sits pressed shoulder to shoulder for half an hour without speaking, just watching the snow. Another passes a carved bone back and forth like a nervous tick. It's messy, but it's real. And yes, it's physical. These bodies, dense, powerful, constantly moving, aren't shy about closeness. A shoulder lean here, a nudge there. You're not sure where affection ends and practical warmth begins. One moment, someone is offering you marrow. The next, they're using your thigh as a pillow. You stop questioning it. Later that night, back at the cave, your admirer braids a strip of sinew and leaves it near your sleeping mat. A gift. You stare at it for a long moment. In the 21st century, someone might have texted you a hey. Here, you get hand-woven tendons. You smile. Genuinely. Then you pick it up, tie it loosely around your wrist, and lie back with a sigh. The fire pops. The cave hums. Someone is softly humming again. And you, awkward, modern, soft around the edges you, have somehow stumbled your way into a relationship with a rock-throwing, meat-chewing Ice Age woman who can probably carry you up a mountain. You should be scared, but you're just warm. You look around the flickering space. You're not sure what this is, but you think, just maybe, it's love. You're half asleep when it hits you. Literally. A smell, not a faint whiff, not a distant breeze of moss or smoke. No, this is a full-body olfactory assault, like something ancient and pungent just climbed into your sinuses and slapped your brain. You sit bolt upright, eyes watering, nose twitching. It's meat. Or at least, it was meat. Someone nearby is chewing on what must be day-old entrails. The scent is thick, cloying, and unmistakably awful. You glance around the fire. No one else reacts. No one seems to care. Why? Because to your fellow Neanderthals, this scent is just background noise, maybe even appetizing. To you, it's an air freshener made of fear. You shuffle away from the source, quietly trying not to gag. And then another scent hits you. Different this time. Earthy. Sharp. A kind of resinous tang that makes you blink. It's someone rubbing spruce sap on a cut. You can smell it across the room. That's when it dawns on you. Your sense of smell is on overdrive. You press your palm to your face and feel the truth. Your nose is huge, massive, architecturally impressive, like someone built a cathedral where your nostrils used to be. And it's not just for show. Neanderthals had enormous nasal passages, not because they were going for a certain aesthetic, but because they needed to process cold, dry air fast. That long nose of yours warms and humidifies everything you breathe. You're basically walking around with a built-in HVAC system. And side effect? Incredible smell sensitivity. It's not fun. Right now you can detect at least 5 distinct flavors of unwashed armpit, 2 kinds of rotting meat, the sharp tang of blood, the bitter perfume of crushed pine needles, and something else. Something musky and familiar. You sniff again. It's your partner. The rock-throwing, meat-gifting Neanderthal woman is sitting near the fire, grooming herself with a bone comb and rubbing charcoal into her hair. It's not a bath, exactly, but it's an attempt at olfactory enhancement. You catch her scent. It's intense, smoky, animal, strangely comforting. You're weirdly okay with it, which is concerning. The others are completely unbothered by the funk. They sniff the air like weather forecasters. One man pauses mid-step and announces something with a grunt. The others nod. A few moments later, a gust of wind brings in the unmistakable stench of something dead, possibly large, possibly close. Your nose detected it seconds too late. They've got you beat, and that's just smell. Now let's talk about your eyes. Later that night, you follow the group out into the open. It's pitch dark, no moon. The stars are out in clusters, silent and cold. You're squinting, blinking, trying to make sense of shadows. The others? They move like cats. Their steps are sure. Their gazes dart from tree to tree. You trip over a root. Someone grabs your arm and steadies you before you hit the ground. You blink, struggling to see. They blink, already navigating. It turns out Neanderthals had eyes 15% larger than modern humans. Not just wider, but deeper, sitting further back in their skulls theirs. That extra eye volume gives them superior night vision, letting them detect subtle motion, pick out edges, and recognize shapes in the gloom. You, by comparison, are basically blind. You shuffle forward slowly, staring into the dark, when suddenly, movement. You freeze. Something is watching from the tree line. You can't see it, but your companions can. Their heads turn in eerie synchrony. One raises a hand. You grip your spear tighter. Whatever it is, it's big, and it's not running away. One of the older men makes a soft, rumbling call. The others echo it, forming a quiet sound wall. You're not sure if this is a warning or a threat. Eventually, the thing in the dark slinks away. You hear it breathing. Then it's gone. You finally exhale. Someone claps you on the back, and you nearly jump into the next glacial period. The walk back is slower. You're quiet now, your ears straining, your eyes beginning, just barely, to adapt. Shapes are starting to form. Shadows resolve into trees. Your confidence grows. And then you step in something warm. You look down. It's poop. Giant, steaming, clearly carnivorous poop. You stare at it, then up at the group. No one is fazed. One even gives an approving nod, like you've passed some sort of initiation. Neanderthal fieldwork. Come for the culture, stay for the tracking via dung. As you approach the cave again, your senses are still reeling. You can hear the fire crackling long before you see it. You smell the soot, the grease, the faint sweetness of pine from a half-burnt log. Your ears pick up a whistle, someone's nose whistling as they sleep. Your nose feels huge. You want to scratch it off and start fresh. You lie down, nestling into a fur-covered bed of moss and hide. Your eyes adjust to the dim glow. The cave walls blur into outlines, then into patterns, then into faces. Your hearing is sharp. Your breath is slow. And your nose? Still detecting 5 distinct kinds of meat. You sigh. Deeply. Being Neanderthal is many things. Graceful? No. Delicate? Definitely not. But sensory? Absolutely. Every smell is louder, every shadow is deeper, every heartbeat, your own and the one pressed beside you, is sharper. You close your eyes. Your nostrils flare one last time. Still meat. Always meat. You wake up in a pile, not of straw, not of bedding, an actual pile of limbs. Someone's arm is draped across your chest. A knee is wedged under your ribs. A heavy foot rests against your thigh like a sleepy paperweight. This is normal. Neanderthals slept in close quarters. For warmth. For protection. For comfort. There's no your side of the bed here. Just a shared nest of tangled bodies, furs, and the faint, lingering scent of last night's mammoth stew. You extract yourself carefully, stepping over a snoring adolescent and nearly tripping on a bone flute. The fire's out. The cave's cold. You shiver automatically, but only for a second. Your thick Neanderthal skin kicks in. You're fine. You scratch your stomach, stretch, and immediately hit your hand on the cave ceiling. You grunt. Someone else grunts back. It's probably a friendly good morning. You shuffle over to your pile of clothes, or what passes for clothes. A bundle of stiff hides stitched with sinew, matted with ash and something that might be fat. It smells powerful. That's the polite word. You throw it on. And it sticks. Literally. The inside of the hide is tacky. It clings to your arms. It has not been washed in, well, ever. And neither have you. Let's talk hygiene. Modern you had a toothbrush, deodorant, shampoo, a drawer full of skincare products that required a PhD to use correctly. Neanderthal you? You have dirt, and smoke, and maybe a twig. Soap? Doesn't exist. Bathing? Rare. Maybe seasonal. Yet somehow the group doesn't seem worse for wear. Their hair is tangled but thick. Their skin is rough but resilient. And their clothes, while horrifying by spa day standards, are functional. The secret? Smoke, grease, and bacteria. Your hide clothes are probably treated with animal fat, which acts as both a sealant and a bacteria barrier. The stench, while eye-watering, helps deter insects and possibly predators. It's a funk of function. You sniff yourself. It's bad. But strangely, you don't hate it anymore. You step outside and join a few others by a smoldering fire pit. One is using an animal rib as a comb. Another is sharpening a flint scraper with rhythmic flicks. Your partner, the rock thrower from earlier, grins at you, then picks a twig from your hair. Romance is not dead. She offers you a greasy strip of dried fat. You chew it like bubble gum. You watch as one of the group starts scraping down his tunic. He's using a piece of bone to literally shave off the grime, like de-icing a windshield. A puff of soot and hair flakes off into the wind. This is the Neanderthal version of dry cleaning. Another uses ash from the fire to scrub his skin. It leaves grey streaks, but also takes off the top layer of gunk. It's not refreshing in the way a modern shower is, but it gets the job done. And here's the amazing part. They don't smell bad to each other. Your mega-sized Neanderthal nose, currently detecting 17 kinds of odor at once, is beginning to differentiate. There's smoke sweat, there's grease sweat, there's meat sweat, and then there's just them, the smell of the group. You're starting to find it familiar, maybe even comforting. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals used specific hygiene rituals or simply relied on natural resistance, you recall, thinking about the grit under your fingernails and the questionable smear on your sleeve. At this point, you'd bet on resistance. Because here's the kicker. They don't get sick like you. These people have gut flora that could survive a nuke. Their immune systems are basically shield generators. They drink stream water straight. They eat questionable meat. They sleep cheek to cheek in poorly ventilated caves. And they're fine. Your old self once called in sick after eating slightly expired yogurt. Now, you're nibbling dried squirrel intestines and chasing it with ice water that definitely has frog in it, and you haven't even sneezed. You realize something else while watching your partner carefully rub ochre into her cheeks. Self-presentation still matters here. It's not hygiene for sanitation, it's hygiene for status, for ritual, maybe even beauty. People wear bone jewelry, teeth strung on sinew, scar patterns, painted symbols. They decorate their bodies not because they're bored, but because it means something. You try it, smearing a little charcoal on your own face. A child sees you and laughs. You're getting there. You spot someone sewing. Yes, sewing, with a bone needle and animal sinew. The stitches are uneven but strong. The tunic she's working on looks like it might survive a forest fire. You touch your own clothes again. They're stiff, but almost protective. Like armor. Nothing fashionable, but clearly battle-tested. Your old closet? Full of fast fashion that would dissolve in the first rain. This would outlive you. You spend the rest of the morning gathering firewood with the others, your hands sticky with tree sap and hide grease. You're dirty. You're sweating. Your tunic smells like a barbecue pit that was used to cook a bear and then forgotten for a week. And yet, for the first time in your life, you don't feel gross. You feel alive, used, utilized. You are not polished, not perfumed. You are functional. You return to the cave, drop your armload of wood, and collapse into your corner. A child tosses a clump of ash at you. You toss one back. The others laugh. You've earned your grime. And in this world, that's the cleanest feeling there is. You're starting to think you've got the hang of things. How to walk without falling. How to chew without choking. How to wear a sack of meat grease and call it a tunic. The cave is starting to feel like home. The smells are less offensive. The children now pelt you with ash affectionately. Then something growls outside. Not a dog. Not a wolf. Not anything that should be growling near a cave full of sleeping humans. Your eyes snap open. Around you, the others are already alert. No shouting, no panic. Just a quiet, coordinated rising. Spears are grabbed. Stones are lifted. Children are ushered into the darker recesses of the cave with gestures and low clicks. You move to follow, but someone puts a hand on your chest. Stay. Outside, the growling deepens. Heavy footfalls crunch the frost. You creep forward, peeking around the edge of the cave entrance. There it is. A cave lion, huge, muscles rippling beneath a dust-colored coat, eyes glowing faintly in the starlight. It's sniffing the air, ears twitching. This is no cartoon jungle cat. This thing is built like a tank with fangs, and it's maybe 12 feet away. It doesn't know if it wants to attack. Yet. You freeze. Your heart tries to climb out of your throat. The others don't flinch. One of the Neanderthal men raises his spear slowly. Another lights a bundle of dried moss and begins waving it just slightly, letting smoke trail into the cold night. No one runs. That would be fatal. Neanderthals lived with predators we only know from documentaries and nightmares. Cave lions, dire wolves, giant hyenas, saber-tooths. All of them larger, more aggressive, and significantly more terrifying than your average modern stray dog. And you? You are very much on the menu. You grip a stone. Not that it'll help, but you feel like you should do something other than sweat and pray. The lion snorts. Then, miraculously, it turns. Not far. Just a few feet. It saunters off into the brush like it never even noticed you. You exhale. Slowly. The Neanderthals wait a moment longer before standing down. One of them looks at you and shrugs, like Tuesday. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals actively defended their caves or relocated when predators moved in. You remember, mentally filing this under things I hope never to verify firsthand again. But here's the reality. You're prey. Even now. Even with all your muscles and your big nose and your fashionable dirt tunic, you're not top of the food chain. And predators aren't the only danger. Later that day, while foraging with the group, you notice the trees are oddly silent. No birds, no rustling. Then, a rustle. A big one. You freeze. Everyone else has vanished into the underbrush. You turn. Too late. Something charges. You don't see it clearly. Just fur, speed, and the world tipping sideways. You're on the ground. The weight is gone just as quickly. Your companions have already leapt into action, jabbing with spears and shouting. Whatever it was, a boar, maybe, or a giant hyena, is retreating into the trees, bloodied but alive. You lie there, heart slamming against your ribs, a shallow gash on your arm and a mouth full of moss. Someone helps you up. Hands check your limbs. Someone else wraps your arm with a strip of hide. No words, just presence. And just like that, the moment passes. Back to foraging. You wonder briefly how they survived this every day. The answer is bleak and simple. They didn't always. You've seen the remains. Skeletons with claw marks, bite wounds, skulls shattered. And yet, enough of them lived and healed and kept going. That resilience wasn't optional. It was the only way forward. You think about your old fears. Spiders, heights, maybe a confrontation with Karen from accounting. That's cute. Here, fear is the sound of breathing in the dark and not knowing what owns it. You return to the cave that night with a bruise on your hip and a new, unwelcome understanding of what living wild really means. Inside, the fire is crackling. Your partner notices your limp and tosses you a piece of fatty meat without comment. You chew slowly, watching the shadows flicker across the cave walls. Your eyes catch on one of the drawings. An animal, maybe a lion, facing a group of tiny figures with spears. It's not perfect, but it tells a story. They remembered. They recorded. Even fear gets painted here. You wrap yourself in a hide and lie back, the fire warming your feet. Your ears are tuned to every sound now, the hiss of sap, the crunch of someone shifting in sleep, the low moan of wind at the cave mouth. It's not peace, but it's a kind of safety. Not because danger is gone, but because you're learning to live beside it. And maybe, just maybe, you'll make it to morning. You wake up with a spear in your hand, not metaphorically, literally. Someone shoved it there while you were asleep. You blink blearily, still curled in your hide bundle, only to find your partner already up, brushing snow off her shoulders and eyeing the spear in your hand like she's expecting something from you. You sit up, bones cracking, and try to look competent. Because today is crafting day. Or more specifically, tool day. You follow the group out of the cave, ducking under the low stone arch, and head toward a flat clearing with a stony patch in the center. Everyone spreads out into small groups, dropping bundles of stone, bone, and long wooden shafts at their feet. One of the elders squats beside a pile of flint and gestures toward you. It's your turn. You kneel, pick up the spear shaft, and immediately realize something's wrong. It's heavy, like telephone pole heavy. You struggle just to lift the thing upright, let alone hurl it. The wood is dense, almost springy, and the point is nothing like the sleek, streamlined tips you're used to seeing in museums. It's broad, flat, more like a steak knife welded to a broomstick, and it weighs more than your torso. Neanderthal spears weren't dainty precision tools. They were brute force weapons designed to stab prey up close, face to face, when the only other option was being the prey. You try lifting it again. Your biceps tremble. Your back cracks ominously. One of the others picks up a similar spear and casually hoists it one-handed. Then he throws it. The thing sails through the air like a javelin, thuds into a tree, and sticks. You try to do the same. The spear wobbles out of your hand and nosedives into the mud 3 feet away. Everyone pauses. A few polite grunts. One child laughs so hard they fall over. You smile sheepishly and go retrieve your dignity from the dirt. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals used throwing spears effectively or preferred close-range jabbing. You recall, as you almost impale your foot trying to lift the spear again. If your guess counts for anything, they jabbed. A lot, because throwing one of these monsters requires both terrifying strength and very specific muscle memory, which you unfortunately do not have. You spend the rest of the morning sharpening tools under supervision. Your partner hands you a flint core and gestures for you to try striking flakes from it. You nod, full of misplaced confidence, and promptly send a flake into your own thigh. She winces. You grunt. Later, she takes your hand, repositions your fingers, and shows you the correct technique. Soft taps. Controlled angles. No drama, no blood. She makes it look effortless. You bleed again. Eventually, you manage to shape a passable cutting edge. It's dull, uneven. But the group seems content to let you play along. Someone hands you a strip of hide to scrape. You begin working slowly, sweat running down your back, biceps burning. Tool-making here isn't a weekend hobby. It's survival. Every weapon, every blade, every net and bone needle is made with care and skill, because failure isn't an inconvenience. It's a death sentence. And yet there's art in it. Later in the day, one of the elders sits beside you and begins carving a spear shaft. Not just shaping it, but decorating it. Subtle notches, spirals, tiny animal marks. You glance at yours, plain, ugly, a little crooked. You quietly hide it under a rock. The elder doesn't laugh. He hands you a smaller piece of wood and shows you how to notch it. No pressure, no expectation, just shared craft. It's a different kind of communication, not language, but labor. You work side by side, the rhythm of scraping and shaping replacing speech. You feel yourself settle into the motion, hands steady, back straight. The tools may be crude by modern standards, but there's an elegance in their function. Nothing wasted, everything earned. At some point, the group breaks for food. You chew dried fat and marrow paste from a horn cup, which sounds fancy but tastes like beef candle wax. Then it's back to work. You spend the afternoon trying to balance a bundle of spears across your shoulders, trudging them back to the cave. They bounce. They shift. One nearly takes out your ear. You arrive bruised, panting, but victorious. Inside the cave, you line the spears against the wall like trophies. Your partner picks one up, examines it, and grunts approvingly. Then she takes yours, the ugly one you tried to hide, and gestures toward the fire. She starts sharpening the tip, refining it. Not mocking, not correcting, just improving. She's invested. You watch, quiet, as the orange firelight glints off the stone tip. Your stone tip. You're part of something now. Later that night, the group gathers around the fire. Someone strums a cord of sinew stretched between antlers. Others inspect new tools. You hold your finished spear across your lap. It's heavier than it looks. Less perfect than you'd hoped. But it's yours. You imagine using it, facing down a boar, a bear, a lion. Maybe you'll survive. Maybe not. But at least now, you're armed. And in this world, that means everything. There's a hush across the cave tonight, but it's not the kind that brings dread. It's a quiet built from fire and fatigue, from full bellies and tired muscles. Outside, the wind stirs gently through the valley. Less a howl now, more a whisper. You lie on your back, shoulders nestled into packed earth and woven fur, the scent of smoke clinging softly to your skin. You're not cold. You're not hungry. You're not lost anymore. You're something else. You're part of this. It's strange to think about it. How not long ago you couldn't even hold a spear upright. How chewing raw meat made your gag reflex threaten revolution. How every new sound in the dark sent your pulse racing. Now your hands are calloused in all the right places. Your stride has weight. Your reactions come from your gut. Not fear, but instinct. And sitting near the fire, with her arms tucked beneath a fur cape, is the woman who once flung a rock at you and changed your entire fate. She's carving something slowly, focused, silent, the way she always is at night. You've stopped trying to guess what she's thinking. It's better just to sit nearby and share the warmth. Tonight, the others are quieter than usual too. The elder, still whittling tools from antler and bone, occasionally glances toward the cave entrance as if expecting someone or something. Even the children, who are usually still shrieking and tackling each other this late, have gone still, pressed against their mothers, sucking quietly on bits of dry marrow, or simply staring into the embers. You sense it. A change in the air. A feeling that something is ending. You shift slightly and look up at the smoke-blackened ceiling above you, its surface scratched and stained by generations of soot and story. You can still make out the figures dancing across it. Bison, lions, abstract shapes, handprints layered like whispers. You've learned to read these images like a diary. Not a written one, but something more primal, more universal. It's in these shapes that the tribe has remembered its past. And now, your handprint is there too. You feel something heavy move in your chest. Because even if your stay here has been strange, brief, and impossible, it has also been real. These people, your companions now, your strange ash-smeared family, have welcomed you. Not with words, not with ceremony, but with shared effort, shared breath, shared meat. You've bled beside them, worked beside them, slept among them in a tangle of fur and smoke. And now something in your bones is telling you this is the last night. You don't know how. You just know. You rise quietly and step out into the frozen dark. The snow crunches beneath your feet, but softly now, like it respects the mood. The sky above is cloudless, vast and pierced with stars. Constellations that don't have names yet, or maybe never will. You walk up the ridge path, the same one you stumbled over on your first night, gasping for breath and slipping on stones. Now you move over it like you were born for it. At the top, you look out over the world. It stretches endlessly, hills coated in frost, forests black against the horizon. Somewhere out there, mammoths move, lions prowl. Other tribes cook their own smoky dinners in their own rocky shelters. But here, tonight, you stand alone, and you let yourself feel the weight of it all. The cold air fills your massive lungs, those Neanderthal lungs you've come to know so well. You exhale, watching the mist swirl and fade. And as your heartbeat steadies, you realize you're ready to leave. Not because you want to, but because you've learned what you came here to learn. You know now what it means to survive without complaint, to adapt to pain without surrender, to be part of a world that doesn't explain itself, doesn't apologize, but simply is. Historians still argue whether Neanderthals were ultimately outcompeted by Homo sapiens, or whether they were simply absorbed, you remember. You've read the theories, the fragments, the guesses, but standing here, having lived beside them, having slept by their fires and bled under their sky, you know one thing for certain. They didn't disappear. They became us. Their stories didn't end. They got carried forward in breath, and blood, and laughter, and stubbornness. In that tiny muscle twitch when danger is near, in the way a body leans toward warmth in the night, in the drive to survive something you don't fully understand. You turn back toward the cave, Inside, the others are asleep again, the flicker of firelight reflecting on oily hides and bone jewelry. Your partner stirs slightly as you lie down beside her, adjusting to your presence with barely a sound. You stare at the ceiling again. The handprints glow faintly in the dying firelight. You place your palm over your own print. The size matches, the shape fits, but the truth of it goes deeper than that. You're not a guest anymore. You're a memory in the making. And as your eyes begin to close, you let yourself wonder, not out of fear or longing, but curiosity. Will someone, thousands of years from now, find your mark? Will they sense the story in your shape? Will they know that you were here, that you belonged, that you were strong? Maybe. Maybe not. But right now, none of that matters. Because here, in this moment, you are part of something older than civilization, older than stories, older than even language. You are one human breathing beside others. And that's enough. The snow is falling lightly again, dusting the forest in ghost-white silence. You wake slowly, not with a jolt or a chill, but with that warm-bodied heaviness that means you've slept deeply and without fear. The cave is quiet around you. A few low snores, the faint shuffle of someone stoking the fire, a baby hiccuping softly in a pile of fur. You stretch, without thinking, and feel your spine extend like a bow. No tightness, no aches, just the strange, solid comfort of a body that works the way it's meant to. You sit up and take a long breath, your ribs expanding with ease, and somewhere beneath your breastbone, a quiet realization lands. You are not just surviving anymore, you're thriving. And it's not just physical. Your senses feel more acute than ever. You can smell that someone burned marrow in the fire last night. You can hear dripping water somewhere deeper in the cave. You feel the subtle pulse of warmth coming from the smoldering embers. Even your thoughts are different. Not slower, exactly, but more grounded. You don't think in apps or alarms anymore. You think in actions. Eat, carry, sharpen, help. You think in weather, in wind direction, in the texture of bark and bone. There's no time wasted on wondering why, just what's next. You rise and move toward the entrance of the cave. The sky beyond is soft with dawn, a peach-hued shimmer spilling over the frost-bitten hills. You recognize that shade of light. You know how long it will last. You know what kind of clouds those are, what kind of wind follows behind them. You've learned this without trying, just by being present, just by surviving. You never studied Neanderthal life. You absorbed it. Today is quiet. There's no hunt planned, no new injuries, no stampede to escape or fire to rebuild, just tasks and rhythm. You join the others by a flat stone near the cave mouth, where tools and bits of antler are laid out. A woman hands you a half-finished scraper and a flake of flint. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't need to. You take it, examine the edge, and begin shaping with practiced, confident strokes. You don't cut yourself. Not this time. Later, you help a boy mend his sling. He's maybe 7, but he already carries himself like a tiny warrior. You tie the sinew carefully, test the tension, and hand it back. He nods. Not quite a thank you, but more than nothing. He sees you now. You've earned that. You look at your own hands. Once soft, maybe a little hesitant. Now they're firm, scarred in places, calloused where they need to be. You still have your modern mind, but your body? It's theirs now. And yet, something inside you knows this is temporary, that the world you came from is still out there. The flicker of electricity, the hum of tires, the bleary glow of screens. You feel the pull, but you're not ready to let go just yet. That afternoon, you help construct a drying frame near the fire pit. It's just a few branches lashed together with animal gut, but the structure is familiar. Your brain recognizes the design pattern, and you adjust it slightly, instinctively reinforcing a weak joint. One of the elders raises an eyebrow, then nods once. Approval. You wonder if some small part of this knowledge came from them. After all, they're still inside you. Neanderthal DNA lives on in modern humans. Small percentages, yes, but meaningful. Certain genes that affect muscle density, immune response, even hair texture and skin tone. You remember reading that once, idly in a science article. It didn't mean much at the time. Just another trivia fact to forget by dinner. But now it feels profound. That stubborn strand of Neanderthal DNA that made you sneeze in spring. It might have once allowed someone to survive an Ice Age infection. That tendency you have to clench your jaw when thinking. It might be the echo of someone who used their teeth to strip hide for hours. Your allergy to dairy? Okay, maybe that one's not from them. Or maybe it is. No one's sure. Historians still argue whether those surviving traits were the result of evolutionary pressure or sheer genetic drift. You recall watching your companions work. But what you're seeing now doesn't feel like random inheritance. It feels like legacy. You step away from the fire and move to the edge of the ridge path, looking out over the forest again. It's familiar now. The line of trees, the curve of the stream, the dips where animals pass. You've walked it. You've tracked prey through it. You've knelt in its mud and come out the other side stronger. You hear footsteps behind you, soft ones. Your partner. She joins you saying nothing. Just stands beside you, shoulder to shoulder, sharing the view. She hands you a piece of dried meat. You take it, chew. It's smoky, tangy, probably squirrel. She points toward the hills, where the clouds are building low and heavy. Then she taps her arm and mimics a shiver. Storm coming. You nod. No words needed. Later, you both sit inside, watching others prepare. Bundling furs, stowing food, reinforcing the roof with sticks and mud. Everyone moves with purpose. No panic, just adaptation. And as you help, something strikes you again. None of this is extraordinary. It's just life. Real, rough, freezing life. But it's also yours. You sit by the fire that night, cradling your knees, listening to the elder tell a story through gestures and sounds. A tale of a great hunt, of a spirit that rode on the back of a bear, of stars that sang to the sleeping trees. You don't understand every symbol, but you understand the rhythm, the beats, the rise and fall, and you realize you'll carry this rhythm with you. Back to the future, back to fluorescent lights and automatic doors and the whir of engines. But you'll carry it, because now there's a piece of you that recognizes what came before. Not just in your cells, but in your soul. It's your last night in the cave. You don't know how you know that. No one told you. No voice whispered it in your dreams. The stars didn't spell it out in ash across the ceiling. But you know, it's in the air, in the stillness of the firelight, in the weight of every glance, every movement. Something quiet has settled into the group, a kind of reverent stillness, as though they too can sense the arc of this story is drawing closed. You sit near the hearth, legs crossed, shoulders slouched, hands coated in charcoal and grease. The others are nearby, but they don't crowd you. They don't question the silence. Even the children are calm, subdued, pressed close to their mothers or gnawing quietly on scraps of hide. Tonight is for remembering and for letting go. You look around at the faces you've come to know so well. The elder with his ever-carving hands now resting in his lap. The child who once handed you a beetle with perfect ceremony, now curled up beside a half-carved bone flute. The woman who threw a rock at you and somehow started all of this, still beside you, silent, steady. You've lived with them, suffered and stumbled and laughed and sweated beside them. You've watched them carry each other through injury, through storms, through hunger. You've learned their strength isn't just physical, it's cultural, emotional, deeply human. And now, sitting here, in a body you borrowed and a world you'll leave behind, you start to wonder what will remain. Not here, in you. You rise without speaking and step out into the night air. The sky is perfectly black, soaked in stars. You feel like if you reached high enough, your fingertips would smear starlight across the sky. Below you, the earth stretches wide and endless. Trees like shadows, the river like a silver string. You take it all in, the cold on your skin, the scent of pine and distant ash, the muffled rhythm of your own breath. And you feel it again, that slow, profound stillness that belongs only to places untouched by clocks. You pick up a rock, flat, warm from the fire, and carry it with you to the ridge. There, you kneel, not in ceremony, just in reflection. And you press the rock into the snow. It leaves a mark, a small, imperfect circle. It'll fade by morning, melt, disappear. But for a while it will exist, like you did. You think about the drawings in the cave, those strange shapes you've grown to love, the animals, the lines, the handprints. You touched them, traced them, added to them. And now you realize that's all any of us do. We mark the walls around us. We leave impressions. We press our palms into the world and hope something holds. And even if no one ever finds it, you knew it happened. You return to the cave slowly. Inside, the fire is dying down. The group is already settling into sleep. You lie down in your corner, next to the same fur bundles, the same pile of wood and ash and memory. Your partner turns in her sleep and places one thick arm across your chest. Her breath is steady. You stare up at the stone ceiling and wait. Because something is changing. Not the cave. You. Your body feels heavier than it did hours ago. Your chest rises and falls with slower rhythm. Your eyes begin to blur, not from exhaustion, but from something else. Something ancient and patient, drawing you backward or forward through time. And then, just before your eyes close, you see something. A handprint, yours, pressed in charcoal, beside so many others, not special, not central, just included. That's enough. You close your eyes. The cave disappears. The fur fades. The fire goes cold, and now there is only breath, and silence, and the memory of belonging. You're waking up. Back in your bed. Your mattress feels strange, too soft, the air too warm, the lights too bright. Somewhere a fridge hums. A car passes outside. But your body remembers. The weight of a spear in your hand, the way charcoal feels when it smudges your face, the sound of ancient laughter echoing off cave walls. You rise and shuffle to the mirror. You look the same. But in your posture, there's something else. A stillness, a sturdiness, a quiet readiness to face whatever comes. Because you remember. You lived it. You were there. And though the stone is far behind you, the cave lives on, in your breath, in your bones, in the firelight flickering just behind your eyes. And as you lie back down, pulling the blanket over your chest, you let your breath slow once more. There's nothing left to prove, nothing left to chase, only sleep. And the deep, primal hum of knowing you belonged to something older than time. The fire is low now, just a whisper of orange and red nestled in grey ash. You're warm beneath layers of hide, your breath slow, your thoughts gentler than before. The cave breathes with you, ancient and still. Outside, the wind has softened into a distant lullaby, brushing across stone and branch like a lull in a storm that's lasted for centuries. You hear it, but you don't brace against it anymore. It's just part of the rhythm now. The others sleep nearby, bodies curled, limbs tangled, their silhouettes slow and peaceful in the dim glow. You listen to the way they breathe, deep and even, like the earth itself is resting. Even the children, wild and shrieking hours ago, are quiet now, tucked into nests of fur and ash, with soot on their cheeks and dreams in their heavy heads. You let your thoughts drift, not backward or forward, just away. Past the hunger, past the noise, past the cold, past your old world, into something slower, simpler, stronger. The stone beneath you isn't hard anymore. The smoke doesn't sting. Even the sounds of the night, the wind, the crackle, the faint sighs of sleeping breath, feel like a lullaby written in mammoth fur and flint sparks. You don't need to understand everything. You're here. You lived. You learned. And now you rest. Sleep, little cave dweller. You've earned it.